Well, hello and welcome to Chapter 11. My apologies. The syllabus does say I have till midnight tonight to get this out. I tried to do these on the weekend, and this weekend happened to be a funeral of a dear friend and Easter, and it got away from me. So thank you for the email reminding me. But Chapter 11. Chapter 11 is about informative presentations. Now, you've already done one. Didn't know much about it, but you got your feet wet. And this one, you're going to tell us why this topic is important to you. So first, let's talk about what's an informative speech. Well, informative speech is one that gives us information, just like the title says. A commemorative speech would commemorate something. A eulogy would be something like that, or a toast. But informative speech, you're going to give us information. The problem that we run into, especially in today's society, is information overload. I'm sure many of you have Googled something to find out information on what you wanted to talk about. And your Google responses was 4,723,000. That's a lot of information. And you have to cram it down to a short time frame. This speech is 5 to 7 minutes long. And there's no way you can put all that information in there. So you want to try to keep it fresh. What's new? What's different? The goal here is to convey new information and increase understanding, our understanding of the topic. In your topic, whichever one you chose, you're going to explain to us in an informative manner why it's important. Now, don't go that extra step and persuade us to do something. Like, I think you should really try kayaking because it's fun. Well, kayaking may be fun, but as soon as you ask us to try it, you turn it into a persuasive speech. So what's the difference between informative and persuasive? Informative speeches give you information. Persuasive speeches persuade you to do something. It's all the speaker's intent. What is your intent when you make this video for me to watch or for us to watch? Actually, I'm the only one who watches it, but what is it you want me to do? Hopefully, you want me to understand why this topic that you've chosen to speak about is important. And you have to remember, I got to find my mouse here, it doesn't have to be important to me. It needs to be important to you. I had a student that gave a presentation on who's the best, LeBron or Michael. I don't follow basketball, so I really didn't care. But it was important to him. And so he gave a great presentation on why it was important. So tell me why this is important. Relate your topic to your audience. He related it to me through basically heroes. Those were his heroes and his icons in basketball. I couldn't see that because I don't follow basketball, but I had my own heroes in my life that I could measure it to. I love to fish. I love to hunt. Not many people take a blind guy hunting anymore, but back in the day, those were my heroes, and those are the guys that I looked up to. Who's the best fisherman? Who's the best hunter? So he could relate the topic to me because I was understanding he was talking about something that was important to him. Now, there's different types of informative presentations. There's demonstration. You could show us how to change the oil in a car. That's a demonstration. You could, or explanation. If you can't get a car in your basement to change the oil in front of a camera or can't get a camera to it, you could explain to us how to do it. And then the whole time telling us why it's important to maintain your car. You could describe it. My best example of a description is I was part of a group that took a whole bunch of blind people to McElhaney, where they make Tabasco sauce. It's an island in southern Louisiana. And they have an egret rookery there. And back in the early 1800s, all the rich people were getting egret plumes to put in their hats, and all the egrets were dying. And somebody in the McElhaney family decided that they were going to make a sanctuary for them. And And we took some blind people there, and this one blind lady kind of got up near the fence, and she said, "Tell me about it." And one of the new people that was working with blind people said, "Well, it's kind of swampy, and there's some weeds out there," and somebody else that kind of shushed him. He said, and this is if I'm teaching class or we have a class, I tell my students, close your eyes. Right in front of you is a 4-foot chain link fence. Beyond that is lush green leaves. Some of them are real big, like elephant ears. And in the middle of that green, different shades of green, is some bright yellow flowers. I think they're irises. And just beyond that's the water's edge, and there's the the algae that's on top of the water. They call it duckweed. And at about 20 feet, the water clears, and there's a log out there. And on the log, there's 4 turtles on the log sunning themselves. And just beyond that, there's these long white things. They're about 20 feet wide and 60 feet long, and they're totally white. And they're not painted. They're covered with white egrets. They're covered with birds. And one's flying over your head now, and it's got about a 6-foot wingspan, and it's all white except for its feet and its beak. And this blind lady that couldn't see anything smiled, and she said, "I love it when people talk to me like that, because I used to could see." So if you're going to explain something or describe something to us, describe it so we can visualize it, so we can picture what you're talking about. In exploration, is you could do any of those: demonstration, explanation, description, but exploration takes it to that next little level. You want to get the audience involved and get them to want more. The key to a good speech is leave your audience wanting more. You know, how many of you have watched a presentation by somebody and were looking forward to the end? Come on, it's got to be over soon. It's got to be over soon, because they kept going on and kept repeating stuff. And a good presentation, you tell us about it. You use great descriptive language. You bring it to life, and then you let it go. Don't go on and on. You have a 5 to 7 minute time limit. It doesn't mean you have to do 7 minutes. Now, if you can do it in 5 and get all the information, that's great. If you do it in 4.5, get all the information, it might be a great speech. But I'll probably dock you a point because you didn't do the 5 minutes. So you can squeak it out there. But don't go, I've had students or 5 to 7 minute speech go 12 minutes. Because they just kept talking about it. And you may be so passionate about what you're talking about that you get excited. But you have to watch the time when you're doing presentations. Now, there's a couple of different strategies you can use. One of them is to define the information. And I think it's very important that we do define information. If I was giving a presentation about CDs, that could mean a couple of different things. It could mean something that you play music on, or it could mean a bank account that you have that gets special interest rate because you put a whole bunch of money in the bank. So you need to define it so we know what you're talking about. You need to organize the information. Make sure it's laid out in a path that we can follow. I went to a presentation, it's declassified now, but it was about the war, Desert Storm, and the guy knows his stuff, but he didn't lay it out. And so when we took a coffee break in the middle, I heard some people thinking, this guy is dumb. He don't know what he's talking about. He's very intelligent, knows exactly what he's talking about, but he didn't know how to tell people about it. So organize it. You know, think about if you're telling somebody, giving somebody directions to Houston, Texas. It's west. Okay. What do you mean it's west? Well, it's about 16 hours west. Okay. But you know, if you're going to tell them how to get there, organize your directions in a way that they can understand them. You know, go to Atlanta, get on a plane and fly to Houston, or drive to Montgomery, and then Montgomery go south. And once you get south, go to I-10, take I-10 east or west, and it'll take you into Houston. Or when you get to Baton Rouge, you can take 12 and go around New Orleans. You don't have to go run. Make it make it organized where we understand and we can follow. Reduce misunderstanding. You know, if you're talking about reading a book, well, I read a book, okay, or I read. Read what? A pamphlet, a flyer, a novel, a web page. You know, what did you read? So make sure we understand. There were dogs running around the yard. Okay, were they Great Danes or were they Chihuahuas? Make sure that you use words that can convey what you're talking about so we don't misconstrue it as something else. Yeah, the book talks about giving incentives to listen. Incentives are great. Most of you probably remember earlier years in school where the teacher would give you a piece of candy for getting a question right. There's not a lot you can do for incentives, but the incentives that you give us could be the information that could benefit us somehow. You know, why is it important? Why is it important to have whitewater rafting in Columbus? Well, the tax dollars that they bring in pay for such and such and such and such. Why is it important to have a no-kill shelter? Well, because the animals didn't ask to come into this world. It's not their fault, so why are we going to kill them all? Find a way to give us an incentive to listen. And when you connect with us, you know, maybe you're talking about the cost of books in the bookstore. That's something that we can all, yeah, that cost me too much money, and then when they go to sell them back, they don't give you nothing for them. So how can we make this better? Get the audience involved by asking those questions. Connect with your audience by asking those questions and get them. Don't say, I think we should so and so. You know, I this, I that. We need to find a way to bring the cost of education down. I need this degree so when I graduate, I can get a job and I can afford to live and get a decent paycheck, but I can't afford to be $100,000 in debt by the time I graduate. Beware of different learning styles. Some people learn by listening. They're auditory learners. I know a bunch of people that are totally blind, and you can read a page of something and they will have retained 90% of it because that's the way they learn to learn was by listening. Pictures don't do them any good. They can't see them. On the other hand, some people read and write. When I was an undergrad student, had a professor that liked to give tests with lists. List of this or list of that, list of axioms and so-and-so theory. And it's like, I have a hard enough time with that. So before the test, I would read them and write them, read them and write them. You know, like when you were in school and the teacher caught you doing something you weren't supposed to do and you had to write 100 times so-and-so. I would write 100 times so-and-so, the list, write the list, write the list, write the list, write the list. So I at least had it in my memory long enough to take the test. Some people are visual learners. They watch people do things. I was working on a well in my son's house, and my daughter-in-law said, how'd you learn how to do all this stuff? And I said, I watched my dad. Because growing up, when Dad was working on something, I was out there watching him. Not necessarily because I wanted to be, but you know, I really did enjoy it. But it's something I was told to do. Go help your father. And I would watch him do stuff. So I knew how to change the oil and change the spark plugs and set the gap and this and that, and the other, set the timing by watching my dad. I didn't get a book to learn it. I didn't get a test. I didn't have a video. You know, back then we didn't have videos. But by the repetition of watching him learn it or do it, I learned how to do things. And kinesics. Kinesics. Do it. A lot of people learn by doing. As you know, I'm renovating my basement. And there's some errors. but I'm learning about finished woodwork by doing finished woodwork and making mistakes. I watched I did like all y'all do. I took the video and YouTubed it, and how do I cut a compound miter on crown molding, and I watched it, and I did it like the video said, and I put it up and it didn't fit. But I learned from my mistakes, and I did it again, and now I'm getting it right. Don't go look at the earlier stuff, okay? The informative presentation. Inform us. Don't tell us to do something. Don't tell us to call our congressman or vote for this or try this thing. You know, try this new dish because you'll like it. No. Talk to us about a restaurant. You want to get to us about a restaurant? Tell us about all the things the restaurant has. But don't tell me to go try it. Once again, my apologies for this not being posted first thing this morning. Have a good day. If you need me, you got my email, you got my phone number. I'm looking forward to hearing your presentations. And remember, use words that bring it to life. Don't read off the script. Yeah, I have my keyword outline that I post for y'all, and that's what I talked off of. When you look at it, all these other words I spewed out there aren't there. Some of you, today I'm going to be talking about and you can tell you're reading, and it sounds like you're reading. I don't want to hear the red word. I don't want to see you reading. I want to hear you tell me about something that's important to you. And showing that passion. That's it. We'll talk to you later. Have a good day.